The dying fly is on its back on the windowsill, still twitching its Kafkaesque dance. I hold the rolled new Fly Fishing Monthly, unread, but no longer care if it has the smear of its namesake's ex-sauciness. I'm a billionaire with $2,271 in the bank. No other assets greater than a cross pen with Mickey Mouse on the clip. A souvenir I was told at the garage sale of the fudged conflation of the 15th anniversary of Disney World and the 200th of the signing of the Constitution. A year apart, but Mickey's fingers are off. Even the trashy RV I live in illegally on a side lawn that neighbors are petitioning against, I had a kid remove the tires and hide them to slow down the take it the county over sheriff. It was borrowed from Stevie, a pal, and the ex of the lawn owner, Belle. I say billionaire because there's so little time left, I can't spend the $2,271 I have, even if I had the energy to walk to the bank and fill out a withdrawal slip, receive the bills from the life-affirming young teller who usually pats my palsied hand and steers the cup of Kafkaesque lollipops to it. I was naked yesterday when Belle tapped on the side wall. She has learned to avoid the picture window. She checks each day to verify life. She doesn't want to fumigate any more than necessary when I go. I knock back on the plastic wall, ready to spontaneously burst into flame if the class action lawsuit has any merit, Stevie hopes, in a precise echo, or else she's a wreck the whole day, dropping and picking up a head of lettuce, for example, off her kitchen counter until the OCD gods are appeased. Yesterday was a fair fight. Less so today since I'm wearing briefs. I'm scrawny, about 135 pounds now and 6'1", but I was buck naked then in the steamy summer heat, so the mosquito had more targets than I did as a napalm bomber in Vietnam. Everything. Its zeroing drone made me spin to cover my back. I got dizzy and had to crane my neck to wedge my head against the low ceiling and keep my hands free. Recovering, I rolled my kid clay dick in my hands to create a hot zone, opened my hands, and the skeeter wafted in like a Huey gunship into a clearing only to be hit by a landmine. I picked the bitch off the linoleum and inspected it as Howard Hughes would when one of his Mormon aides would present a fresh bug kill. The ex-flyboy's nails were long by then. I heard a couple of inches. His hair an oily rat's nest, his handsome facial symmetry skewed from ingrained squints of paranoia as he spent his last years as recluse in the 9th floor penthouse of the Desert Inn casino he owned. I do go outdoors. Today my neighbor wants to talk, I see. She crabs over the yard, shielding her eyes and giving a hailing smoker's cough yodel in case I'm art posing with eyes closed, standing at the graveyard picture window with bug entrails like tombstones on Boot Hill. I was the poet napalmer of Nam. Somebody else already took poet bomber. But no need for caution today, especially with no-fly briefs. I wrap the window first to save her some OCD debit ray echoic tapping, and she gives a wide, store-bought, toothy half smile. She hasn't done the lowers yet. Walks in and stops short. "Oh, shoo, why don't you run the AC?" she says. I have sealed it with saran wrap in an obviously defective hermetic quest. She grew up near here in the Florida Panhandle, and she can handle the bugs. A throwback, maybe, to when she was a kid developing breasts. Her uncle had lifted her shirt and called them mosquito bites, and she briefly figured a chestful of them was even sexier. He was later castrated with 2 bricks in the mountains near Bajos del Toro, Costa Rica, by a nun's brothers who took her word of God over his. "Well, you'll die of heat festation," she says, leaving the door open. I close it faster than a Gook's jungle jig when the F-4 jet's screech was first detected. Didn't matter then or now as I see her wash sweeps in 2 droners in wingman formation. "Damn, Belle," I say, unable to shove them out. "I got no backup Mormons." "Never mind," I add when she wrinkles her nose in puzzlement. "Reader's Digest has an article on reincarceration," she says. It's real. You ought to read it. close as you say you are. It's short, you know, the way they do it. So it won't take much of the pie chart of your remain. Oh, there I go, harping again. Oh, sorry. Oh, God, harp. Sorry. Oh, but you're just a sack of bad karma, I think they called it. Anyway, a man in Indiana said he'd been Genghis Khan in another life, and it was bore out by DNA on a mongrel's bones. He was buried in common clothes, though, but could have been in disguise, they said, because he was hated by so many. But if he was dead already, I say, why would he need a disguise? Never mind. So this Indiana guy has a Mongol in his family tree? He was the tree, Lar. That's the point. She catches herself, starts rhythmically nodding. Mongol, what I'd say, Mongol, what I'd say, Mongol, what I'd... Belle, stop. She sits down on the chartreuse swivel post chair at the dinette, the one that's not just a beheaded post. I take the white and faded yellow love seat and fold Special Ops deep camo into it with my white briefs and sallow skin. I told you I was a poet. She takes her pack of cigs out, but remembers my lungs or something and repockets. There's also an article, she says, about how to write better fiction. Your old haunts. Write what you know was top of the list. Didn't make sense to me. Fiction is what you know? That's an oxymoron. That's Belle's favorite word ever since her divorce lawyer's typo referencing her ex's desire to maintain conjugal visits. Well, if I come back, I say, it's got to be as a woman. I'll take the raging hormones. To hell with war chemicals. I'm sure the VA knows napalm and Agent Orange, defoliant on my rainy day runs, are in my immune system. You think I don't like bugs out of spite? I got no resistance. But she has heard all this before. Rants about Nam from her ex, Stevie, and his PTSD. That's where I met him, at the VA. I stopped him from heaving a typewriter at a bureaucrat. Next week, there was a fancy laminated sign with code violation number, warnings, etc. for such actual tosses or subsection attempteds. That's what they're efficient at, codifying your limbo. Well, if you're even half a man, she says, and I'm not labeling, you've already been a GD woman. If you figure reincarnation, I said reincarceration before, but look at me now, skipping the OCD. She was nostalgically puzzled and pleased, as if she had finally broken free from the ubiquitous high school yearbook dictum to never change. That's it, I say, small steps, Belle. Lets you stop short of a gook tripwire on the trail. She hardened right up into her sour apple default. I don't like that word gook. My ex Stevie even stopped using it finally, although he kept slipper-slapping slopes. I said a tunnel rat, which he was in the Coochie district. I know, I say, he was nuts. Well, being small for his size, she says, he would crawl in after them. I told him he had to respect the Kong. These were people who could figure out the exact crimp in a tunnel bend to wedge a beer belly American, but, his words, let a slippery slope past. She let out a sad, huh. That's the one bit of table wit in 18 years of marriage, counting both husbands. Stevie and I bonded right away, right after the typewriter incident, realizing we were double fucking the enemy, him under the tunnels and me on top in the air. We fantasized over beers about the napalm and his flamethrower coming at the same time. Anyway, she continues, if you figure reincarnation is a step up, as a man, you've already been the woman already. If it's a step down, though, when you come back, you're going to get hitched when you're 17 and your eye sockets hadn't lost their flesh color yet. I still got hearing loss from the wedding night. Ruptured my ear and my hymen. I got blood trickling I get it, Belle, I say, checking my droning aura. What do you want? Because I hear them circling. She stands, straightens the magnetized pot holder on the mini fridge. This dinky place came well stocked. No complaints there. Even a grapefruit spoon. There's mostly one of things, even a one-slice toaster. I eat them, grapefruits. The VA doctor said them and blueberries for immune help. I told him, you be grateful Reagan invaded Grenada so you can line your bird cage with your medical degree. She tidies the salt and pepper Bobbsey twins. Well, I always knew it was day to day. I've seen this separation minuet before. Lar, where's the kid, she says. Got to put the wheels back on. The small claims court said it's mine, and I sold it. Ah, Belle, now I don't have much time. You see my skin tone. I got bills overdue. This thing's tapping my electricity. I use candles, for Christ's sake, and I lunge at a skeeter but crush air. Now with the Zika, I heard the word was Nigerian for easy birth, what with the microheads. Plus the dengue, malaria, West Nile, chikungunya, to name a few things they carry, plus my weather front of vitreous floaters that serve as anti-aircraft flak cover for them. I should go nuclear, but I got no tolerance for pesticides. I rash out, and God knows what's beyond skin deep. Talk about sad sack of karma. She pulled her face taut in her hands. I might want to do something about this sun damage. And she jabbed toward her lips. And I want to get the lower set done. Well, you can't really see them unless you try, I say. Well, I used to like having a look, she says, I could fall back on to show people I don't care what they thought about, but geez, it's hot in here. And she flaps the waistband of her clam diggers. It hits me. Surprised it took so long. In Nam, I was, full title, Oracle Poet Nate Palmer. Guys handed me letters all the time from their girlfriends or fiancés. Those were tough. To decipher what the hell was going on back home. To read between the loins, they called it, deferring to my 2 semesters of community college where I studied comparative literature and the philosophy of peanuts. The hardest part was stating the obvious to a gym rat grunt whose beard up, neck muscles twitching from lingering reps, ready for amorphous righteousness. I mean, come on. Quiet week, my mom and I went shopping for underwear, and I just shake my head. Likewise, any sentence that started, you never, just hand it back, force it on them, get their fists to unclench. They'd grab at straws like, I got my tits done for you. Or jab at the page, but that's a teardrop, no? And I'd say, this is a humid-ass country soldier, no telling, could have even snuck out of you. Often I had to add bead of sweat when I'd obviously crossed a macho line. So I knew Belle had met a man, probably somebody from Pensacola Lanes who wanted to see her outside the swirling dry ice clouds and strobe lights they use for the AA-sponsored Friday extreme bowling nights. Romantic as that darkened, pin-clattering ambience with the Captain and Tennille hurting your ears would be, natural light is the next step for those tentatively mixing sobriety with reality. Besides, she has a cool 10-year-old, Stu, to consider. He's doing well in school, plays Little League, and is patient about teaching her how to play solitaire on the computer. A Sisyphean nightmare based on my few sessions with her. Of course, I had no patience, since as an F-4 fighter pilot, I played the best video game of all, evading ground-to-air missiles, although they were Chinese firecracker junk. I'd see the blip on the radar, let it close, go into eyeballs out, negative G's, and turn it back where it came from. Shake it and say, sayonara. Somebody might say wrong war, and I'd say they all look alike to me. Stu and I get along, though I've only been here 2 months. Stu, S-T-U, is really Stew, S-T-E-W, a fact her ex does not know. Belle used to swing a bit until she got the nickname Clapper. And in the worst of her meth days, that's what got her teeth, one night went along with the parlor game of who would you fuck to be the father of your kid, knowing he would immediately take off. The game was started as a way to take the sting out of some real-life soap operas that had hit the group. Her indecision somehow led to a turkey baster, a Tupperware bowl of semen from 6 guys, and voila, as they say on the cooking show. Stevie was in the pleasant dark, getting a button-nosed, towhead aberration of a son who, with Belle's insistence, favored her paternal grandfather in a crinkled sepia photograph. It's a cookie-cutter, cloudless Florida Chamber of Commerce day, and when Belle parts the curtains to answer Stu's "I'm home," the relentless light justifies her cosmetic consideration. This is the time of day when I would pour a stiff one, screw the cap on hard, and put the gin bottle disingenuously behind the baking soda. Now, of course, with the orange in me wrecking my liver, with Howard and his Mormon enablers, I don't touch the stuff. When the palsy first hit my hands, I used to kid myself I still had it. I could still plunk her down on the heaving skillet in the ocean they called an aircraft carrier. All I had to do was sink the palsy to the 100 control ticks you needed to square up and hit one of the 4 arrestor cables with your tail hook, timing the full throttle just right in case you missed them. Doing a touch and go bolter cost you a big round of drinks. Doing a wing wag, no touch, was 2 rounds and the raunchier blowjob jokes. Too busy sucking on the joystick, the only one that made any sense without the beer filter. Arrestor cables, that was the daytime. At night, when you semi-crashed onto a dancing necklace of pinprick landing lights, they were called garrots because your balls were gurgling in your throat and you couldn't breathe. I was long out of the service by the start of the palsy, but an old flyboy, hell, any guy, never wants to lose the skills that make people kowtow burn shit in their pants. It dawns on me to buy this heap, drive it until the engine seizes, which, judging by the puddle of oil in the dirt underneath, every time Bell puts in 3 quarts to loosen her up and charge the battery, etc., I wouldn't need a road atlas. I'd pull off the 2-lane road, climb the flimsy back ladder onto the baking roof, and let the orange in me peck my liver like Prometheus's eagle, my version of the Nevada desert Howard nearly died in until found by Melvin Dumar, later heir in an invalidated will to 1/16 of everything. That reminds me to scribble a will, no witnesses, so not legal, and all the lost cousins can contest the pennies jar and moldy album covers from the 60s I hear go for a few bucks on eBay. Don't be loony. You can't afford this, Bell says, giving the wall a thump that interrupts the mini fridge. Ack pinballs my insides. I crimp forward from the pain and think of Stevie bending at a right angle, trying to wrestle a flamethrower with a custom fuel pack like a cranky vacuum cleaner to the next level of the Coochie tunnels. Finally giving up, he'd hold his breath and shooting blind to at least kill some fire ants, scorpions, snakes before taking out his .45 and kaleidoscope scratched lens flashlight. Proceed. You don't understand, I say with a disturbing sudden slur to my words. I'm a billionaire. I can't spend the money I have. You'll get there. We all do. Even if you don't have 2 nickels to rub together. What's the matter with your tongue? Now, Stevie did you a blue sky favor. I clap the air, but my hands don't jibe. Anyway, it's a vitreous floater. I slap my side on instinct and feel death's cage being rattled. By Saturday, she says, you have to vacate. Don't make me get mean. Now, Belle, I know some things about Stu. I say, rallying, using a hand on her shoulder to stay her. She takes her hand off the doorknob. That was a fall off the wagon meth haze when I told you that. Provided by you-know-who? My friend Elvin Vincer from high school, ex-president of the Slave Riders Bike Gang. Well, they're gay. They ride purple Harleys with flames. She bristles. You should, I know, I should never underestimate the ability of a gay to wield a greasy bike chain by his fingertips. I finished community college on the GI Bill, and after many lapse frog jumps, poetry, from dead-end jobs, was fired yet again, this from my longest stint, division editor at Hallmark. It was called egregious insubordination and cost me a pension, vacation days, blah. I had had production work up anthrax-themed get-well cards, which held sneezing powder. Okay, when opened, the hologram bouquet of flowers wilted, the patient would sneeze, and the jingle would chip and sing, anthrax is nothing to sneeze at, which you did, so you're not going to die. Imagine your relief. The sneezing powder is sweet to take that adrenaline taste out of your mouth. I then found some freelance for a weekly suburban shopper, coming up with fillers for a pittance, like how cows sweat through their nose. I ran across a slave rider's clipping on their scare tactics MO, corner some poor bar hoppers in the parking lot, show them a deck of cards, and say, these are going into the air, and you 5 have to stomp one, and when they hit the ground, low card gets a beating, the rest scram. One kid stopped Elvin's hand on the way up and said, is ace high or low? Elvin laughed so hard he turned him loose, which led, however, to his ouster as president when the other gays felt he had been out-nuanced. Bell must have caught my subconscious flick to the VA wall calendar. Don't think social services will bail your ass. I'll call Elvin and he'll park his Harley where you're standing and squat the house, a lease from me in his hands. VA, hell, even the police will say it's a civil matter. She softened. Please be out by Saturday. You know, Elvin and me were voted senior anti-prom king and queen. He hadn't come out yet, but boy, could he twirl the baton I loaned him for a scepter. She held her hand up and out, as though being escorted down the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, though I recoiled at the image of her broad backside going funhouse. I helped the door close quickly and parse a distant lawnmower, small plane, Bell's AC unit, and lawn sprinkler to home into a skeeter behind my back, coming in like a Russian MiG out of the sun. I know it's the orange making me crazy to worry about germs at this stage, but I spin crazy anyway, and the dizziness drops me to my knees, and even that's not enough. I go horizontal, blacking out. The take-a-dump muscles I would use pulling G's in the F4 to avoid this are long gone, and I hit the linoleum like so many other splats. The high-pitched droning nears, the tinnitus of death. I can't even lift my head for the faintness. All I can do is wriggle some and make myself an aircraft carrier on the high seas for it to land on. I limp wrist fling a hand at it over my shoulder like a lady loading a purse to put a masher in its place from 50 years ago. I feel stupid and come up with salve riders to whitewash the action in my mind. Your kill ratio is pathetic, my ex-girlfriend Tia said to me a few months ago at what an arcane historian would pinpoint as the beginning of the end for us, rivaled in the timeline only by the first flossing technique complaints. To me, who killed yellow reds with napalm, killed green with orange, I did everything in Nam but open a Carvel stand and offer Stricky Puss ice cream cake to the gooklets. I had just swatted a ceiling spider in Tia's apartment bedroom, one of those wolf monsters that belongs in the sink when you groggily turn on the light to piss, and fractionally just before jumping into the door jamb you think, how did my hairbrush get there? And I missed. I readied another go as it rankled defensively into the ceiling wall joint, and standing on the waterbed lost my balance when Tia stepped up. I fell backwards, and her white terry robe parted to a freshly showered, glistening brown bush right above me. It had been a while, more timeline data for the historian, so call it art appreciation of the Escher repeating, receding image of brown fuzz. I steadied her with a hand as monopod to her pussy. Like she was passing some gripped balls samurai test, she never wavered as she flattened all 8 legs with my of late Kafkaesque pillow. She whipped her robe closed and stepped down. I rocked baby-like on the undulating water, and she said, that may have been a howdy in Vietnam, but here it's a lawsuit. Time to pack. I had seen this coming, of course, me the oracle poet and all. And that afternoon, I was at her computer figuring out the nearest bus stop when she called me into the kitchen, cut me a slice of leftover meatloaf and wrapped it, then threw the rest out, the last tally of her investment in us. I croak a laugh now, me wriggling like a metamorphosed aircraft carrier, feeling the RV shimmy on the jacks, and a thumping in my chest way beyond the usual lighthouse heartbeats warning, alter course. It's all I can do to reach the door and push it ajar. Stu is between the two homes, throwing a tennis ball first against Bell's, catching the grounder back, pivoting and tapping the frisbee with his foot, and bouncing the ball off my plastic wall. That grounder back becomes the mirror double play, back to Bell's. It's a balletically smooth operation. A shortstop is perpetual motion machine until I call him. He finally finds my face in the door crack on the floor and runs over, eases past me. I close the door as a turtle would cover her eggs, flipping sand backwards. He wants to call 911, but I assure him it's just a dizzy spell and implore him to hunt the mosquito. Immediately I hear a clap behind me. "Done," he says. I can't believe it. I ask to see it, and this blonde Mormon-like youth presents it to me, bloodless. "A fine kill," Howard and I say. He helps me to the love seat. "Keen," he says, looking at my bowl of marbles above my head. After a minute, I'm feeling well enough to drink the fiberglass tasting water from the holding tank and bring down the bowl from the shelf. "You know how to play?" "Play," he says. "I thought they were slingshot ammo." There used to be many more in the bowl. Tia, in an alpha female tirade against the quality of my entire breathing life's CV, put in as many marbles as weekends I had left based on actuarial expectancy. Not reality. Tables turned on me. Every Monday morning, she'd take one from the bowl, hold it to my face, and swallow it. "That's one more weekend turned to shit," she'd say. I didn't swallow them after I moved out to here, but I kept the equation going on Mondays. It was an existential black hole. Everything went into it, but nothing came out. No raison d'etre escaped. Even Rue gave up. When I got the terminal diagnosis and started receiving flyers in the mail for life insurance I couldn't be turned down for, the hearse doesn't make practice runs. I subtracted marbles to conform to the new timetable, and now even that marble bowl ghost town is optimistic. Stu's second base pivoting has made a circular dirt patch about 5 feet across. I move the frisbee, pick out pebbles, and roll the dozen marbles out. Stu drops to his knees, corrals them with both hands, and swishes the mass around like lemmings driving hot revving cars. "That's not how you play," I say, and make a hole as the pot with my heel. I show him how to shoot using his thumb and the crook of his finger, and he's a natural in any of the versions of the game. The sun bakes a throb into my temples, and a quarter-sized blind spot in an eye has formed. I go into the RV for the one screwdriver and $2,270. Belle had cashed my check to close the account yesterday, subtracting $1 for gas. I auger in, who cares now that that's the worst thing a pilot can hear, a hole, barely more than a marble wide, but deep. I tell Stu every shot in from the grass edge is worth $200. And it doesn't take long for the first, and the next 3 come right after. A muffled click from the Coochie tunnel as they drop. Stu tucks each $200 under a stone, like a pro shooting craps. Never put money away. Sign of weakness among us flyboys. And Belle comes out with 2 gnawed plastic tumblers of iced tea. Stu tips the glass to drink, and Belle gets nervous. "Use the straw or take it out. Stu, take it out. Take it out. Take it." "Mom," he says, "come on. We all know someone who's lost an eye." She smiles, unself-conscious enough to show the lowers. She knows she's lucky with him. She watches the transactions, shakes her head, and tells me with a parchment wink that's audible, I'm on a slippery slope, losing my marbles. I am down to 1, which I take from Stu before he shoots. I can see the top of the marble column. I fill the last inch with dirt and tamp it. I'm reincarnating them, I tell her. Stu looks at his mother, then tries to hand me back the money. An RSVP pain hits my side, and I crimp kowtow-esque into a tail hook, looking to catch anything on the way out. "It's yours," I say, pushing the bills back. Besides, breath now just an aspiration as I hold up $70 and 1 marble. I'm a trillionaire.